Alrighty, welcome back. I'm your man, Bad Chad, and Queen Jolene's on the camera. Jolene has been so kind. She's been so kind to give me a to-do list. And she's had tape wrapped around these drip rail moldings for probably a month now. Or no, it hasn't been a month because we've only been working on this car for 23 days. This is the 23rd day, I would say. We're getting closer to getting it finished, but she got the list that says drip rail moldings. The interior, we're just going to put the interior back in that was in there. We're not going to go much further than that. The garnish moldings, there's the moldings that go inside the windows. They're going to have to be dealt with. They're going to have to be sliced and diced to make fit the new window openings because the window openings out here have been changed. The windows, the wing windows are going to have to be messed with. Never done that before. Don't think it's going to be much of an issue, but I just have to get my brain into it and go for it. We have grind the seams. We've went over this. Come on over this side. I ground a few seams. I was going to just leave it all welded up, but we've ground a few seams, and Jolene likes the seams ground. So I ground a seam here. I ground that seam off. I ground the seam off here. She really likes how that looks. We'll grind a seam off for you to show you how I'm doing it, and carry on from there. So we got to grind the seams, and then we got to lower the suspension. It would be nice to be able to lower the suspension all one day. I think I would want to have some help to get that done all in one day, but we'll see what happens. And wire up, fire up. She's already wired up, so all we have to do is fire it up and drive it out. But basically that's my to-do list, and today I'm going to do the drip rail moldings, and we are on air. So I'm just going to pull that aside, leave that right there, it doesn't matter to me. The drip rail moldings are going straight around like that, and basically Jolene wants them to come, well, they basically should come around with the door. I mean, going back like that, it kind of throws you off a little bit. But the drip rail molding, we want the same distance, probably here and there, or all the way along there. So we're going to want the drip rail molding to come down like so. So basically, we want the water to run through there or whatever, the drip rail to come down and flow down this way. So that's basically what we're going to do. Have not cut a drip rail molding and tried to bend it. But I'm going to cut this one and try to bend it. And if it does not bend, I'm going to go to round rod and bend a piece of round rod and weld it in there to make it look like the drip rail molding. That's what I'm going to do. So what happens is the roof comes down. The roof comes down, and then it spot welds together on the piece of the inner construction of the roof. It spot welds together on the drip rail molding. Not quite sure how this one's done, but the roof panel and the panel that's inside the car spot weld together, which hold the drip rail molding. I'm going to zip cut it. Well, I think there was a comment maybe made about they like what's going on, but they do not like the metal over top of the metal. Well, you have to think for a minute. When a car is built, when they build the floor and they ram a cross member on it, they're putting metal over top of metal. So I feel like if any car that is built, when they make the door, they make the door skin, and then they put metal over top of the door skin and fold it over. Basically, what I'm trying to say is every car is made with metal over top of metal. So to not say I don't like cars with metal piled over top of metal, well, basically that's how a car is made. And you know, it's really, what can I say? You have to stop and think for a minute. If they're allowed to do it, we should be allowed to do it. And that's why I have no problem with putting this piece of metal over that piece of metal, because they do the exact same thing. And I can, like the 48 Ford out there, when we did the front fenders on it, the fenders had rotted out at the bottom. Well, what happened was they had an inside construction of metal, and then they had metal piled over top of it on the outside for the shape of the fender. Well, that's basically the exact same thing we've done there and there. That's how cars are made. So to say you don't like metal over top of metal seems a bit, I'm not going to say it. You just have to think about it for a minute, that's all. I'm going to zip cut this right here. I'm going to try to pull this down, and let's see what happens. Went and gone and done it now, didn't I? See, I'm not sure if I can bend. I think it's going to kink on me. I'm going to get a pair of gloves on so I don't cut my fingers. So I've got some grinding to do. I guess I might as well grind the seams. I was just going to leave them. But it's going to be a hard one, that is. Let's do this. It's going to kink right there. I know it's going to kink because it's kinking already as I bend it. It's kinking right there. I can slice it and relieve it so it comes down around and bend it. And let's just play with it. Or just cut it off. Basically. I was just going to cut it a little ways. All right. I'm going to use a piece of round rod, I guess. Going to have to buff that down some. It's a little bit high. Now, I've got one piece of metal there and one piece of metal for the roof skin. I'm going to have to weld that back together before I take off and do my drip rail molding, or I'm not going to get it welded back together. So I'm going to weld it back together real quick. Let's do it. Thanks for coming back. Sorry to put you through the chroming process again, but I can only show you what I'm doing. That's basically the end of it. I can only show you what I'm doing. And the chroming process yesterday was what I was doing, and that's all I can show you. We're going to turn that on. I want some air. The reason I'm going to want some air is because it's on that roof skin, and I do not want heat. I do not want the heat to take up off onto the roof and do anything foolish. And what I mean by foolish is have any warpage going on the roof where I've, it's been welded all the way across there. Andrew from Alabama welded all the way across there. He did not warp it, so I don't think I want to warp it either. So I'm just going to leave the air right there. We'll get a drip rail mold put. Jolene, be something happy today, won't you, baby? I get a drip rail mold and put on. Woo woo! All right. We're just going to tack it first. See what happens. Just going to put a little air on it. Come on, there. I'm going to get it about an inch apart, and then I'm going to weld it up. I like to put the air on top of the weld because the heat's not generally going down this way, it's going up. So I like to put the air on top. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then put the air on it. I'll go down to the end, spread it out a little bit. Not the cleanest right there, but I'm welding it up. A little pinhole right there. quicker you get the air on there, there's probably less chance you have a warpage. So I see it. I'm gonna touch it with my hand just to see what's going on. Warm as a kitten. Warm as a kitten. Pile them on top of each other, so when I grind it off, I got a seam that's complete. Check it out for the heat. A spot right there. Good, 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 good. Whole wheat shreddies. So now I'm going to take and grind that down a little bit because I won't be able to grind it when I get the, well, I will be able to grind it somewhat, but I'd like to be able to grind it easier. And easier is right this present moment I'm a feeling. I'm going to release a few things here. Just want to open the door so I can buff that off nice. Might have to weld another piece of metal underneath that because we got a little ledge going on, and I'm not going to grind that all off. See what happens. How's that? We'll see what happens. We'll put a piece of round rod in there. I got a piece of 1/4 inch round rod, and I'm just going to where am I going to bend it? I'll just bend it over there on the piece of wood. The vise is full. That's why I'm not going in on the vise. Actually, I broke the vise the other day. I did. This is kind of hard. I would bend this by hand. I bent the stuff there around for the front pan by hand. It was just a little easier going. And this is a little thicker. So I might have to put it in something to bend it. Bump, 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 bump. I got this one to go by right here. Be easier if I just stuck it in something. This probably would roll it for me if I wanted it to. Let's go check it out. You get that end down a little bit. We don't want a kink going on, but we just want a little bit more. Let's try that. Not bad. Should probably come down a little bit further, should we not? Put it in there a little bit further. Just a little bit further right there, I think, and then we'll shut it down, we'll weld it on, make it look like something. Sort of basically just trying to mimic the shape of the door. How far do you think we should bring that down there, sexy lady? Up a little bit further like that. Should be at least go past right where the round part is, should we not? What do you think?
Yeah, or in line with the door maybe, I don't know.
Well, I'm going to bend it a little bit more, then I'm going to tack it on there and cut it off. That's what I'm going to do. So we're going to tack it on this time. I'm pretty sure I am. And then we'll cut it off where we like it. And this is all in preference. Like, I mean, we could have left it go straight. We could have, but Jolene did not like it. And you know how that goes. You know how that goes. And if you do not, you will learn after a while. I'm learning. I learn. I'm learning all the time. I do not know everything, and I do not pretend to know everything. And I love my Jolene. I'm going to weld that right on there like that, because that don't look bad, does it, baby? No. She said no, so go for it. I'm going to weld that. I just want to see. I want the same distance going around. That looks not bad. Not bad. Let's cut it off. Dun, 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 dun. Cut it off. What do you think? That should be fine where I welded, or what? Or probably. All preference. It's all preference. Let's weld it up and make it look like something. Do you likey? Says she likey, boy. She says you likey. All right, let's weld it up and make it look like something. We have the air. And we're going to need the air in this one. I want the air in this one. I'm going to build that up there a little bit. I'm just going to do it with weld because it's not exactly the right height. And I'm using it, I'm not going through the painful process of trying to make that drip rail molding. You'd have to really get up on it to notice when I'm done. Just putting product on there for when I grind it. What I mean is product is weld. I want it to flow when I grind it off. That'll alrighty. Lots of meat on the round rod, so I'm turning my weld on the round rod and running it over to the cast. Just making a puddle and then running it over. I feel like I could just add weld here. I got a little ledge going on there. I feel like I could just run another bead of weld down that and then grind it off so it would look nice. That's probably what I'll end up doing. If I need more weld than I use my wire, I just use a coat hanger and plug a bunch of weld in there and then grind it off nice. Just trying to move the weld around a little bit so nothing gets too hot. Just gonna open the door. Well, just leave the door shut, hold my thing. Bumping it so I can see where I'm at, what I'm doing. Going to check it for a second. It's hot. it off. Finish up welding on the end here. Let's still warm it is. Shut the welder off for a second. Just lay that down there. Just going to plug in the grinder, take off that little bit of weld that dripped. Generally, when the weld drips like that, that's when you turn your wire speed up just a little bit, give you a little more temp. Want to clean that stuff off. Don't want to take any metal away. Just want to wash your eyes for a sec, sweetheart. Off any sharp edges. Now I'm going to get the zip cut going, clean it out underneath where I welded it, trying to make it look the best I can in bare metal. Obviously, if you had something like that, you would put a little fiberglass or filler on it to perfect it, but we're doing a bare metal car, so this is what we're doing. Change grinders just for a second. Do a little more playing. Clean it up a little bit. shut the door. So now we have a drip rail molding that's in there. I can probably play with a little bit more. Most certainly can. The more you play with it, I guess, it's just, I get the better you're trying to make it look. I get a little grinding I can do up in this here. And then you just stand back and take a look and see whether you like it or not. It kind of blends right in because it's so shiny, eh? But now we've got a drip rail molding. When you come up from the back side, you have somewhat, if you come up from this side, you can see you still have like a drain thing going on. Generally, when I'm doing a car or something like that, I would seam seal the drip rail molding. That would be a hard drip rail molding to seam seal. But I would probably put a little bit of seam sealer in that, then the water would run off. But we're doing it in bare metal. I can just leave it where it is. But also, I've got to build this up right here with metal. This little ledge, there's a ledge going on there. I have to build that up with some more weld, and then I'll grind that off to make it look right. We'll get in there and clean that up with the drill. But basically, that's what I have to do to both sides to make Jolene happy. We are... yeah, looking all right to me. It does make the door, looks like the drip rail is supposed to be going where it's going. If you come this way and you take a look at it now, it doesn't make the roof look like it's still shooting off this way. You've got a nice rail that comes down that makes it look right. So basically what I got to do is do a little bit more welding there and then call it good. So I have to go off to the other side and do that. I got some welding to go on here. I got to finish that welding there. Where that didn't take that long, I'm gonna grind off a seam and show you how I'm going to grind off the seams and to make it look good. This is what I'm going to do. I showed you yesterday or the day before. I ground off the seams on the headlights, and I used that green pad. I just started using these actually. I forget the guy's name, but he bought the wagon, the 62 wagon. And I've tried them, I really like them. But I'll grind this seam off here for you really quick. And I'm going to show you another seam being ground to show you what I'm going to do to make it look good. Hold the grinder flat. I don't want to grind the metal on either side. I just want to grind that weld. If I do hit the metal, obviously, you know, it's just by fault, but I want to grind that off. This was butt welded, and it had a zip cut of distance in between, so I feel like I'm allowed to grind it off. For me, that right there is what you're looking for when you grind it all off. Any missing spots, you would want to come back in with your welder and hit it again. That's hot. Now, I got that ground off fairly decent. I'm going to leave it like that, and it's quite scratched up like that, but I'm going to take a flapper wheel. I've got an 80 grit on a flapper wheel, and I don't generally do this all the time for every car before I fill it. I'm doing this one because I'm going to polish it, and I want to make it look fairly decent. You know, if you're filling something out, that'd be great. You're done. You grind it off, maybe clean it up with your drill, and then you would go for it, and that's a perfect adhesion. But where I'm leaving it like this, I probably want to make it look the best I can. So I'm going to take an 80 grit after that. I'm not sure what that is, a 24 grit probably. I'm going to get them scratches out. What I'm going to do, off that grinder. polisher will not do anything with the 24 grit scratches. It doesn't bring them back around. The 80 grit kind of takes away the scratches and polish it just a little better. So when I polish it the next step, you'll see. Got that cleaned up, not bad. 80 grit I think is taken out away from the 24 grit scratches that I put in it. I got it ground down to far as I want to take it. I can go further, yes I can, but I'm not interested in damaging anything that I already have done. I don't want to go backwards. I just want to make it look good. So now what I'm going to do, I got this polisher from Eastwood, I think it is. I use the exact same thing on the drill. I use that. It's got the exact same pad on it, but it's just, this is a bigger machine that will polish your car up for you. And I've used it for stripping paint. I've used it for a lot of different things, but as I go with this, pad's worn out on that, but you can see that I can get a lot of that scratches out that I made from the 24 grit with the 80 grit on the flapper wheel, and it just kind of gets rid of everything. I can go further, like there is places where the weld is still peeking out just a little tiny bit, but for me to try to beat that down to get that seems pointless, sort of. So basically what I'm doing is a 24 grit, rubbing the head of it off. Before I polish it, I'm taking the 80 grit on a flapper wheel, just trying to get the scratches out of the 24 grit, because the 24 grit scratches up quite heavy. And then whatever, I'll do another one. Let's do another one while we got the air going, while we got things rocking and rolling. This pad that I'm using right here at the present moment on the 24 grit is sort of wore out, but man, it's working. It's working good. That's what I'm looking for. See how it's all shiny? There's no places that are missing. That's what I'm looking for. I'm gonna go with the 80 grit and get the scratches out of it from the flapper wheel. Because them are quite coarse scratches. Everything that I'm using, or all the metal that I'm using, is 18 gauge. I use nothing but 18 gauge. Unless I'm doing something and I want thicker. I generally never use anything less than 18 gauge for bodywork. So all wrap around the headlights is 18 gauge. Everything that I've used on the car is 18 gauge. I'm not sure what the 37 Chev hood was, but 18 gauge is what I use. Quite a loud machine, but it sure does make things look pretty. And if you really want to make it look real pretty, go all one way. You can do that if you want to, but generally when I was in the elementary school, I colored my pictures all the same way and tried to stay in the lines to try to do the best job I could. Basically, I want to do the exact same thing with the car. So now that we've got that polished off and that polished off, now we're very quick, and the only reason I think that I might sand off the rest of the welds is because it goes very quick, or I can do it fairly quick. On certain places I have it lapped there. This is like it's butt welded in some, but it's lapped in a little bit. It's lapped up there because you would be hard pressed to get that headlight bucket out after you cut that. If you try to butt weld that on and make that piece and butt weld that on, you'd be hard pressed to get the underneath of that out. If I tried to cut and butt that, it would just sort of turn into a mess. And besides that, you need your headlight surrounding to put your headlight in, and if you cut and butt that, you'd be cutting it out. You would not want that. It's okay if you weld metal over top of metal because they done it from the factory to build your car, is what I'm going to say. I have a lot of grinding to do. I have another drip rail to fix. I have the interior to put in, the garnish moldings, the windows, lower the suspension, and fire up. But we're doing fairly well. We're on 23 days. We're going to go to 30 days, and then we're going to go on something else. Anyways, thanks for coming back. I appreciate it. Now that I've done that, I'm happy that I can go to the other side and do it fairly easy because it's basically the same thing. I'll just take it off this one and go over the other side and do that one. Like, subscribe. Jolene looks fantastic today. I'm glad you all come back. I'm sorry I put you through the painstaking of the chrome of the bumpers, but that's what I was doing, and I can only show you what we're doing. Have a great day, everybody. See you tomorrow.